I'm just recording this as kind of an addendum to my last video, and maybe someone out there can shed some light on the problem that I'm having right now. As I've mentioned before in my first video, the speedometer on this car stopped working. I replaced the gauge cluster with a refurbished one. It worked fine for about 2 days, and then all of a sudden the gauges stopped working. Well, just the speedometer actually. All the other gauges work fine. As you can see, I can switch all of my gauges. They all work except for the ones that require the speedometer and odometer. That's why I leave these off. But the tachometer works. The speedometer did work, but it doesn't now. I replaced the vehicle speed sensor, which is on this model. It's on the side of the transmission. I replaced that. Like I said, I did the gauge cluster and it was working. I do have a wiring harness. The guy that did the speed sensor for me wasn't comfortable doing the splicing, and we didn't think that was what it was. But apparently the way these work is the signal comes from the speed sensor to the cluster, and then it goes to the computer. So apparently the signal is getting lost somewhere between the speed sensor and the cluster. Sometimes it throws a code. Right now, as you can see, it hasn't thrown a code. I drove it probably about 10 minutes. It still hasn't thrown a code. It's kind of off and on whether it throws codes or not. And when it does throw a code, it's hard to read because the flashing is really slow and all the same speed. So, you know, when you do the little trick with the OBD1 plug, you just stick a little piece of wire or something in there to short it out, and you can read your codes. It's hard to read. So I'm not sure. It's probably code 24. I mean, that's probably what it is. But right now I have no speedometer, I have no odometer, and the signal's getting lost somewhere. So if someone out there could shed some light on it, maybe give me some tips, I'd appreciate it. And if you can recommend someone in Las Vegas that could fix it for me, I'd even appreciate that even more. So I'd appreciate any help. Until next time, goodbye.